The next speaker will be Valeria Vitale. She's going to talk about discovering and annotating maps through their text. Valeria has been a key member of our team all year. She's a lecturer in digital humanities at the Digital Humanities Institute, the University of Sheffield. She's a member of the British School of Rome's Faculty of Archaeology, History, and Letters, and one of the coordinators of the Pelagios Project. She works to develop historical gazetteers, most notable the Historical Gazetteer of Libya, and joined the Machine Reading Maps Project team at Turing before being appointed at Sheffield. So Valeria, over to you.
Thank you, David. Thank you, everyone. And I'm going to talk a little bit about the things that we can do with these new features, the new ways in which we can explore and interrogate the collections and the David Rumsey collection. So I want to go over 3 points and tell you the ways that I have been using them. And I will start with discovery. And one reason why I am so excited about these new features is because we can find more maps. And I think that everyone in this room will agree that more maps is always a good thing. So for example, if you happen to look for a quite obscure place in the south of Italy, like the city of Taranto, which has been already featured prominently in these demos, which also just happens to be my hometown, you will find 13 results in the David Rumsey collection, searching the metadata. Now, don't get me wrong, 13 results is great. I've never seen 13 maps of Taranto in the same place. Some of them are absolutely stunning. They are amazing, like this Piri Reis map is just to die for. But of course, if we search in the text of maps, things are very different and we find hundreds of results. So I have now 873 maps that feature my hometown, which makes me very happy. But one of the things that I appreciate, and I think all researchers will appreciate in these new features, is that it looks like I always find more than I was looking for. So for example, when I searched for Taranto, I actually realized that thanks to a little bit of fuzziness in the search, I also find some variant spelling that maybe I wasn't looking for. Like, for example, the French spelling for my hometown. I am not thought of looking for it, but when I see it in the Mason review, I think, oh, maybe I should run this again and also look for how many results I get if I write a final E instead of an O. Or actually, I also found deprecated version of the place name of my hometown, things that have disappeared decades ago in maps of Italy, in school books of geography in my country, but have somehow survived in the street names of the city of San Diego. And I would be very much interested in knowing, when that happened. And of course, others will be plain mistakes, but personally, I feel absolutely compelled to explore those as well. And when I look in the grid view, another thing that really struck me is that it is really interesting to see where the place that I'm looking for is in the map. And of course, Taranto is featured in Maps of Italy. That's no surprise. It's featured in Map of Europe. I was expecting that. I was not expecting how many times my hometown actually appears, on the borders of maps of the Balkans, maps of Turkey, maps of North Africa, maps of Africa. And I found that really, really exciting. It made me think of, how many places we belong to, and maybe we were not even aware. And of course, as we have seen this morning and in the other presentations, one fantastic thing is that we can now move beyond the place names. We know how to search for place names. We have become very good at that. We use Google Maps every day, but now we can look for other words that are on maps. And maps have so many important, interesting words. We can, for example, look for categories of things. I chose a distillery, but I was in a bit of a funny mood, but you can search anything, any feature you're interested in. And another thing that I would like to stress is that how looking at the text on maps makes it easier to identify and to expose not only what the map says, but in a way, the way in which the map is saying it. What are, the selections in words that have been applied? Or in other words, it enables us to see more clearly what in cartosemiotics, which is this fantastic disciplines that apply semiotics to maps, it's called peripheral meaning, which is almost an unintended meaning. That is the worldview of the cartographer, the political agenda may be implicit of the cartographer. And through these tools, it becomes much easier to make that explicit, to bring that up. And I think this has a lot of relevance in humanities research. Would you mind holding that for later? Thank you very much. And now, talking about how to use this in research, my second point is analysis. And I would like to say to Drake that you may think that this is very simple, but I know that researchers can already do a lot of interesting things with this. And Katie will talk more about how we can maybe leverage more the computational power of analyzing and visualizing the data that are downloadable. But I want to focus on the search first and just give you an example of how being able to interrogate in a focused way the collections can be a tool to support research. And I'll just use my own research because that was easy. And this is what Katie and I are currently working on, which is the representation of antiquities, which are sites of historical relevance, on a map series that is called the Ordnance Survey map. It's a British map series. And as you can probably see already, the historical sites are very much singled out through the use of a different font. And while we were, reflecting on why that happened, in what way that happened, we started wondering, is that the only, is that a unique feature of the Ordnance Survey maps? Or there are other maps that were doing the same? Maybe it was a trend that was developing, in Europe in those years, or maybe there were precedents that inspired this. Now, to find an answer to this question until like 1 month ago would have taken so long. It would have meant, so many hours in the libraries looking at maps that we didn't even know if they were relevant or not. But now we can actually search for keywords that are related to historical sites and start getting some answers. And of course, we always have to remember that as big as, David Rumsey collection is not all maps. Of course, we're looking at a biased selection of, it's a sample, but still it's 57,000 maps. It's a great sample, and it's a wonderful opportunity to start contextualizing our research. And if you're curious now, no, we haven't found yet any other example of a map that changes the font to express historical sites. And now to conclude, the last thing that I wanted to highlight about this fantastic project I feel really honored to be part of is the engagement. The engagement that we enable now and the engagement that we hope to enable better in the future. So, well, the first thing is being able to improve the quality of the data set, and we're very happy to do that, not just because we get potentially better data, even though at the moment they're not strictly used to improve the performance of Map Curator, but we hope in the future to make them more useful, but also because I think that this can be a very interesting way to explore the relationship between computer-generated information and human-generated information in a context where, truly our relationship with artificial intelligence is getting more complicated by the day. And we think that through the annotation, we are promoting engagement with the digital collection as a whole, that we are fostering engagement. And we know that we're lucky because we are building on an existing community. And that was, that's fundamental for us. There is already, a consolidated community that grew around the collection, that grew around the georeferencer. And we are really lucky that we can, start already from such a great place. And we hope to be able to make this community even wider and even stronger and more motivated. On top of that, we really look forward to start experimenting with engaging the audiences and engaging particular groups and particular communities with selected maps, with particular projects that revolve around particular maps. And we hope to use the combination between the large number of machine-generated annotations that Map Curator has made available with the user contributions that Annotorious has made available, so that we can really channel the contributions from the users and enrich the maps semantically and add, missing information, add what is, at the moment, not in the map yet. And I'm not talking simply about correcting the annotations that Map Curator may have gotten wrong, but I'm talking about the opportunity for communities to actually integrate the information that is on the historical maps and bring back pieces of really invaluable information, such as forgotten place names or deprecated place names, or even memory of, how they used to live the space. And I think that this would be a fantastic opportunity also to maybe change the way that we perceive maps from, tools that have clearly been used for oppression, for dominations, in things, digital tools that may enable some of those communities actually to counter those narratives and to put back their stories into the map. So in brief, our, vision, which may be a little bit too idealistic, is actually to turn the digitized maps through the annotations into some living, open, multi-layered documents that we think will have an immense cultural value. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Valeria. You've been such an amazing part of our team all year. And I think it shows that to have on the team somebody who loves words, as you do, but also, and in addition, has a whole sense of the use of these tools. So as we're building them, we've been getting your feedback always on what directions we should take, what turns, and so on. So it's for all of us, it's been wonderful to have you on board. And I look forward to the kinds of expansions you're talking about.